for you. Welcome. And yeah, you should be able to share your screen now.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? Who here believes that software engineering as a manual coder has a future? Anybody? One, Dennis, I know you said 3 or 4. Who here uses AI to write code? Who here is a Claude Code user? Who is a power Claude Code user and has their own little special setup to write code? Okay, the last of you, that's about 1%. That's where I want all of us to be. It's not enough to use Claude Code. It's not enough to use AI to code. Like anything in engineering, it's a discipline that we don't just jump into Claude and start asking it to write code. That's called vibe coding. That leads to low quality software. What I'm going to recommend is a setup with architecture, using Claude MD, using workspacing, using requirements, and using planning so we can use Claude Code and similar tools in a very mature way to get deterministic, high-quality results. And by the way, we got Claude up already. We're going to get right to work. I'm going to show you my setup. I'm going to show you how I do things. There's literally an infinite number of ways to set up Claude Code effectively. Dennis will show you one of his ways. I'm going to show you mine, and we're going to start right from scratch. But I don't want you to think this is the right way. I do a lot of absorbing of content in this area. If anybody tells you this is the only way to set up Claude Code, I would dismiss it, because there's so many ways to do it based on your environment, your security requirements, your style, your corporate standards. So be open to different ways of setting up this tool. Let me show you how I do it. Let me start with this. Would anyone like to define a project? I'm going to start from scratch here. So let's start a new project. What should we build, everyone? Throw out some ideas, please. Let's try again. Someone else. I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Bang. That's what we're going to do. We're going to call it, let's start from scratch. The very first thing to get Claude Code right, this is a repo first tool. So the first thing we want to do is we are going to right now create a new GitHub repo that's private under Manico. What's it called? It's called what rhymes with llama? What? Llama? PHARMA? We're going to sell drugs to llamas? Sir, are you okay? Are you okay, sir? Are you okay? Pharma? So we go llama, FARMA. Is that right? Is that better? Farmer. Yeah, llama farmer. Done. Let's make a repo, everyone. So let's make a llama-driven website. I'm not kidding. So here we go. So now let's clone the repo, right? I made the repo. Let's clone it locally. I'm showing you everything right from scratch here. I hope it's valuable to you, right? So let's clone the repo. Now we have it local. Now keep in mind, I'm sitting right at users Manico. That's the root of my whole machine. I'm only in there to build and clone the repo. I'm going to get out of there right now. I'm out. Bang. So I'm now going to go into Llama Farmer, and I'm going to run Claude from there. Claude will sandbox to some degree. It will sandbox all of my development to that one directory only. That's the first thing we do to get this right. The second question I have for the Llama Farmer, what architecture do we want to use? When you're setting up Claude Code, the first thing you want to do, in my opinion, is have a basic architecture set up. This is going to drive all other behavior for development. So the system purpose is it's going to be a website to sell and manage llamas. It's actually a business in the US. Let's stop there. The primary use case would be to, let's say, it would be to manage my llama farm, right? And then the target users are going to be llama farmers and enthusiasts. Right? The runtime environment is going to be the web. The server environment, all right, what framework do you want to use for our llama server? We're going to have databases. It's going to be a dynamic site. So what framework do you like these days, sir? You're not going to play? No, something reasonable, please. A modern framework. You do your text file site. I'm out. Anybody? Someone pick a framework. A server-side API framework. Python. Wonderful. So we're going to do Python and Django. The D is silent. Let's put it back in anyways. The client framework. What do you want to do for our client-side framework? Anyone? React is where it's at these days. React.js, right? The API style integration model, we're going to use straight up REST. REST is the way. The authentication and session model, we need a session for, standard for now. The data model, I want to use a RBDMS, a relational database. Deployment and scale, we'll do that later. So this is my initial bootstrapper. Let's update Architecture MD for this repo. Architecture MD is a Claude Code standard. I'm not making this up. So once you boot up Claude, it's going to read the architecture and understand for all activities what the stack is. We can make this as simple or as detailed as we care to, but it's a very good place to start. So here's my basic architecture. I have a few gaps in here. Treat these as human provided inputs from the prompt. If the value is unknown, keep it unknown. And then I want some basic architectural provisional setup. So this is going to be my first bootstrap of this repo because I don't want to just start writing code and building things out. That doesn't go well. Claude Code is meant to interact with the repository, with a Git repository. So get a GitLab, get a GitHub account. You can get one for free. Set up your repo and point Claude Code at it. What it's best at is reading a repo, understanding what's there, and building on top of it. This is one of the first mistakes developers make. They just start vibing in a folder. You're not going to get far doing that when it comes to high quality production code. And that's my goal. So I just made Architecture MD. So let's commit, let's PR, let's merge. And let me get this up on this screen over here so we can see the repo being created. What do we actually call this? Is a Llama website, really? LLA, Llama Farmer, right? So now we see the repo set up, and it's a raw repo. We're not messing around here, right? I just want to show you we are literally starting from scratch. And we're letting Claude commit, doing all the Git commands. I don't use Git commands. The new programming language is English. But the thing that you do need to know as a citizen coder, what's a PR? What's a repo? What's clone? What's merge? These words are critical for a citizen coder. It'll take you about 10 minutes to learn it, right? A repo is a repository of code. And I use repos for whole businesses now. I have a marketing MD and a sales MD and similar. But the repo is a collection of artifacts. Claude Code is a repo first AI development tool. If we look at the repo, we now have our architecture. What did they build out? Required architectural inputs. Website to sell and manage llamas. Manage my llama farm. Okay, we have our basic architectural answers. We have our backend basic Django. It's already building things out. Llama, farm, user, sale, transaction, provisional, derived from user case refinement. We got our SPA, Django REST. Front end is React. We got SPA communicating with the REST. That's perfect. API layer. We don't know about our database tech yet. We'll get there. So we have our initial architecture bootstrapped. We're going to fine tune it as we go. So what's the next thing we want to do? The next thing that I want to bootstrap here is going to be there's architecture. The next thing I want to do is set up security rules, right? Let's take a look at this real quick. So I want to build a set of security rules for this repo. I'm going to inspect architecture so I understand what you're trying to build. And for this architecture, I have some of my custom prompts for my own personal repo, right? I have my code quality prompts. That says things like use a low cyclomatic complexity when coding. Anyone know what cyclomatic complexity is? What is that? That's an old metric. Me too. Why do we not like high cyclomatic complexity code, which AI builds a lot of actually? There's too many linear paths through it. There's too many ways to execute that code, so the chance of bugs goes up high. AI loves to do this. So in my code quality prompts, I just say low cyclomatic complexity below 0.5 and low cognitive complexity. Make sure a human can read this. This helps me build easier to maintain code, not just for humans, but also for AI. So we have the secure AI developer, right? What this is right here is, these are my basic security rules for API development. Then over here, unless architecture is clearly defined, assume this project is a web and API application, which it is. And then I'm gonna set up my early stage repo. I have all of my rule systems here, and I'm pointing to code quality, API development. And let me pull so we have Django. Let me see if I got that. So I'm gonna go pull up my little collection of prompts here. I'm gonna go grab, I'm gonna go grab prompts. I'm gonna go grab code security prompts. I'm gonna go grab backend frameworks. I'm gonna go grab Python. What's going on here? So I got Python, there we go, my Django developer right there. So I'm gonna grab that and I'm gonna copy the path name, and that's what I'm gonna be used for my backend framework. It's just about 100 lines of rules specific to Django. I've been a secure coding teacher for 20 years. I collect all these nitty-gritty rules. I'm now putting them into AI. Next, I got the front-end developer framework. So I'm gonna go back a tick. I'm gonna go to the client-side frameworks for you. I'm gonna go React. There's my secure React developer. I'm gonna grab a copy of, and just to look, this looks like this, right? You're a secure by default React developer, security principles, output, and similar. I'm not gonna focus in on that, but that's just what it looks like. It's like 100 lines. So I'm gonna grab, copy the Dropbox link for that. Now, what do I have already as I start to bootstrap, right? I have, let me try this one more time. I can do this. Right click, tilde, copy path name. Yeah, there we go. So now we have the setup for the backend frameworks. We have a setup for the client-side frameworks here. These are just basic secure coding rules. As of auth and deployment, let's do that later for now. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my just my rules for these frameworks that I pull from training material I've been working on, and now I'm going to bootstrap a set of security rules. There are a lot of folks who have these big repositories of secure coding prompts for frameworks, right? So I'm using my little collection here. Let's now, what we're doing is, we know that we're using Django on the back end. We're going to use, there's Django API. We're going to use React on the front end. So we know that we want code quality. We know that we want API design. So I'm pulling down 4 sets of security rules for this architecture, normalizing that rule set and applying security rules up front. Now, while this is cranking, let's talk about the industry for 1 second. Right now, the industry is saying, right, let AI crank out insecure code and then run Mythos or run your Opus code scanner. It will look to fix those bugs and then send you back the results. We'll fix the code. Then you go back and scan it. And it goes in a loop and run an agent. You can do this all night. Why is that a bad idea? What are they trying to sell you when they recommend that pattern? They're trying to sell you tokens, which are going up in cost, dramatically so. So my goal is the same thing we've been saying for 20, 30 years. I want to shift left. I'm not talking politics. That's after class. I'm not talking shift. I'm talking shift left in the SDLC. That goes for AI as well. More now than ever. So I want to program my security rules clearly from the very beginning and bootstrap that directly into how Claude works from day one. It's the second thing I do after I set up my architecture. Let's commit. Let's PR. Let's merge. Now I have architecture.md, and I have a basic set of security rules that Claude is typically bad at, right? I asked Claude to write some code for me like a week ago, still Opus 4.6, and it's doing dangerously set inner HTML on raw input. It's putting user-driven URLs into href attributes, and these are not complicated mistakes for React. These are junior, basic React mistakes that Opus was making before the turn down the last couple of weeks. And Opus is this acclaimed model. This is this great model to solve all our problems, and it can't even render a URL securely. That's bad. But if you look at Claude, Claude's got one of the largest collection of code behind the hood of its model. So if I say, hey, Claude, When you're going to use dangerously set inner HTML, that's fine. Just run it through DOM Purify. And Claude's like, no problem, Jimbo. I got 1 million examples of that. Now I got 20 million examples of people not doing it, but since you told me to focus on that pattern, I'm going to use that one. And the point I'm making is Claude does not know the difference between secure and insecure code. But you know what Claude does have? Large examples of insecure and secure code. So your job as security experts is to tell Claude which sample should we use. This will help you nearly eliminate injection and technical vulnerabilities so we can work on bigger things. So we got our basic security rule. Let's take a look at is this kind of merge? What do we got? Where am I? So commit merge PR. Now let's bootstrap in the security rules. And there's my second pull request right here. Let's see what's going on here while this is all merging. There are no changes to commit. It already merged it for me. Awesome. So let's go back to this over here for a second. I just added my basic security file now. What does this look like? The security bootstrapper is saying, yes, I'll come back to fix auth later. We got to figure out authorization. So this is like security inputs we're unsure of. And then HTTP security, like security headers, auth and session management, input validation, rate limiting, secrets handling. And the other thing is I would stop here and work with my team to edit that file before I execute it. But this is a good start, so I can show you the process. But this is something where people fit in. Now that I've set up my architecture, I bootstrap my security rules, and I'm gonna get ready to write code in the next hour, right? Now I get my security leads together and edit that file so it's perfect. And every single token I burn in Claude is gonna use these rules from this point on. Let's go look at, so let's see what we got so far in the repo, right? We have, yeah, it's all merged. So let's see what's actually in here so far. So we got architecture MD and security MD. Awesome. Architecture talks about the Django React stack. Security is a list of rules that we pulled from framework-specific rules. Let's go to the next one now. The next thing we want to do now for step 3 is we're going to set up a requirement template. One of the things I recommend is you never tell Claude to write code directly. That's a waste of its power. It is the worst way to use Claude, and you're using a Ferrari while stuck in second gear, basically. What's a more appropriate luxury vehicle for the English market? I'm sorry.
It works here.
It works, okay. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna define what I want a requirement to look like, and I'm gonna use an issue generation lifecycle. So what I'm gonna say is create a new requirement template for me. I want you to read architecture if present. I want you to read security MD if present. Let's make a YAML-based GitHub issue form template for this. The requirements are everything I could think of: ID, title, version, status for metadata, last update, a priority, description, the rationale, what does it apply to, what are the components, who are the actors, data classification, defense layer, acceptance criteria, future behavior, test strategy, dependencies, implementation note. Don't invent product-specific categories beyond what architecture supports. So this is just a standard requirement template, and I'm gonna wire it in. And this, again, I would not want this to be my personal requirement that you see here. You use your template for this, your corporate standard, your opinion on what a requirement document's gonna be. Because what we're gonna do is, we're not just gonna write code, we're gonna ask Claude, create a new issue in GitHub in planning mode and use this template to build out a plan. The difference is when I ask Claude to build a plan for me, it'll give me 2 lines. Yeah, fix this code and add a button. That does not work well. Instead, I'm gonna bootstrap this mammoth set of requirements so the plan's forced to be detailed so I can approach deterministic coding. So I got the requirement template. I'm gonna read security and architecture. I want all these fields in the template, and don't invent project categories beyond what architecture supports. Let's do this. So what I'm doing is I am bootstrapping a requirement document that Claude is going to be forced to use in just a moment every time I make an issue. And again, I'm not going to ask Claude, go write some code for me. I'm going to say, Claude, make a new issue, and I want you to do this thing. Add this widget, build this screen, support this feature. And if the feature is too big, break it into multiple issues for me. And every issue we create we'll have a formal requirement template to help us achieve a measure of determinism in using this tool, right? There's two communities in the world of AI development. One is we're generating a bunch of slop. What's wrong with us? But there's another part of the community that's my community. And the community is, I'm writing the best code of my life by a wide margin. I fix my entire backlog in a couple weeks. I'm building multiple projects, running multiple companies, and I still have free time, right? That's what I'm aiming for, right? That's what I'm aiming for. So we're commit, PR, and merge. The template's created. Let's get this merged right in. We have a nice detailed requirement spec, which you can modify if it doesn't fit your personal flow or your personal standard. So now we have, now we're gonna glue all this together in the next step. Again, my goal is not to build a Llama website. I'm so sorry. The goal is to show you the steps I would take to build a Llama website. Because if you just start coding, that's great. But if you bootstrap the plan first, everything else we do from this point on is gonna be smooth. So we've PR'd that requirement template now. And you can see it only takes a few minutes to do this. I usually take about an hour to dial in my repo and project plan before I bust it out. And as part of this flow, hey, Jason, how many ideas comes to your mind every day? Oh, really good ideas that you would love to build out. How many ideas come to your mind a day? Yeah, exactly. And I'm built like you as well. You know what I do with those 4 ideas? I build them all now. I build all of them now. The basic whim, I got my project, dump in my repo, put the project plan, build the plan, set it off. And my favorite command in the world now is caffeinate-dims. You know why? Keeps your machine open all night while it's coding for you, right? I don't do a lot of back-end agents. I'm not there yet. I rather use skills that I can drive. That's just fine. So I got this. What do we have dialed in? We're gonna merge all this together in a second. We got our requirement template, our architecture doc, and our security guide with security rules. Now the real magic happens. Let's update Claude for this repo. Start by inspecting the repo. Assume the repo is still in bootstrap mode and contains architecture and... By the way, I usually put my rules in Claude/rules/security, and I told it to do that, and Claude said, no, I'm gonna put in security MD, sorry, Jim. So I'll play by Claude's rules for now, but Claude doesn't always play ball. You gotta smack around a little bit, that's part of the fun. Do not invent mature workflow details that are not yet defined. Let me change this. First, read whatever exists. We got architecture, we have security, we have a requirement template. Unless architecture says otherwise, assume this project's web and API. Architecture, got to change this to security. Include placeholders, and this is the magic right here. Include a new rule that new issues let me just clarify this. New GitHub issues must use a requirement template, so every issue is a structured, testable requirement. That's the magic right here. Because we don't want to vibe code. That doesn't help anybody. It's going to waste your time. We want to engineer with AI. That's the way to rock. So now I'm going to dump this in back. And by the way, when you're going to write software with AI, number one, unless you're a serious Linux hobbyist or you're doing a Linux project, Linux is not a good development platform. If you're a Windows person, I side by side play with Windows and Mac. Windows is about 20% more of my time. I recommend you get a Mac, even a dirt cheap old one. I'm not trying to sell you BS. Macs Claude is built for the Mac, and it's super smooth overall. So I recommend get a dirt cheap Mac or a Hackintosh. I'm not trying to get you to spend a lot of money. There's dirt cheap machines out there, even older machines. I just find I save a lot of time in the Mac first world. Also, I don't use the Mac terminal at all. This is just my opinion, by the way. I'm not trying to be divisive or just divisive at all. It's my opinion. We all have different opinions. It's okay. So I like the Mac. The other thing is, the Mac's terminal is coded poorly. The Windows terminal is like titanium, but the Mac terminal is very fragile. So most Mac users are going to drop the Mac terminal, and I'm using an open source product called Ghosty, which I've had Ghosty run for 3 weeks in one session without crashing. The Mac terminal lasts about an hour or 2 before crashing out. So now that we have everything bootstrapped, now let's dump in the glue. Let's glue this all together. We got Claude for this repo. Start by inspecting the repo. look at my architecture, security, and requirement template. And most importantly, every time we make a new GitHub issue, we're going to use the requirement template. Who does a workflow like this, by the way? Who's already here and does this kind of workflow? One of you, two of you. I know, Dennis. 3, 4, 5. How has it affected, when you shifted to this kind of thinking, what was the impact on how you wrote code and how your development worked out, by the way? Was it a big impact to you? What's that? Saves a lot of time. How'd the quality go up when you did this? Meet me outside. I'll give you the money that I told you I would. No, I don't even know this gentleman, but he's like, I do this. It saves me a massive amount of time. And he said it increases my quality massively. That's my exact experience. And a lot of people don't show this stuff to others. I want to show you this so all of you use this. The era of software developers is ending. The era of citizen coders, long live citizen coders, commit, PR, merge, right? One of my neighbors owns a beauty salon, right? And I taught her how to use Claude Code to help her run her business. And I'm asking her a couple months later, so what's going on? She's like, I change my website every week. My customers love it. I take pictures of my customer, hear their design, and then style it in AI so they can see what it'll look like at a time. She is now an AI-driven hair salon. And I'm like, are you wasting your time, Jim? This has saved me tens of thousands of dollars and makes work fun again. So this is not a tool for engineers. This is a tool for anybody trying to operate a computer for any reason. It is powerful, probably one of the most dramatic technologies in the history of the planet, even more than the internet. So now we got, so commit, PR, merge, I can spell, merge. I think we should be all set now. Now we're dialed in. So let's bail out of here and just jump in one more time to make sure we're all set up. And I'm going to do one final thing because it's very dangerous to do all this bootstrapping because you can take it too far. You can take it way too far and reduce all the performance benefit. So before I finish up and start building out our Llama project plan, I'm going to review architecture Claude, and I'm going to review, this should actually be security.md for overlap, contradictions, and low signal content. Tighten them so each file has a distinct purpose, remove duplication, and keep all three concise. For those of you deep into Claude Code with extensive meta files that drive your system, I recommend you run that right now. Because if you put too many rules in, you're going to burn so many tokens and waste so much time, especially when you have conflicting rules, that I have this set up as an agent to run like once a week against all my repos because things can get out of control fast. So let's do that. Let's review what I just set up and let's get rid of all the load. And now that we have it all set up, watch this. I'm going to say create a new issue in GitHub. Because I'm never going to make a direct, now that I have the bootstrapping done, the era of asking a direct command is over. Everything else I do in development, once I set things up, is to always go through a new GitHub issue. Why? Why can't I just say build out the whole Llama site? Why am I asking it to make a new issue first? What's that? You know what it's doing. Exactly. Give me, anyone else want to add to that? What else? I like that. Let me answer from my 2 cents here. Number one, when I create an issue, it's gonna build out a detailed requirement spec, number one. Number two, I could go look at that requirement spec and hit edit and change it any way I want to make sure, because it's usually close, but rarely perfect. And then now that I got the plan dialed in, think about it. You got a 1 million token context window, 1 million tokens that include the instructions, your question, and the answer, and more. I'm going to use all 1 million of those tokens just to build the plan. I'll get the most out of Opus when I do that. Now that the plan is done, I'm going to use 1 million tokens to go code now. And I'm going to maximize the capability when I break things up. And here's one more hint. A lot of people talk about autonomous agents right now. That's great. But I don't think the autonomy part of agents is what makes things great. Because you can have an autonomous agent system with crappy skills and you got garbage. It's all about writing a good skill. What I've learned in the world of AI is if I have a skill or a prompt that's beyond 100 lines, it breaks down quickly. So what makes agentic AI powerful for me is breaking the problem down into many small pieces. And this is what I'm about to do for these llamas. I never thought I'd say that sentence. So we created, now look what I just did. I didn't actually modify everything. I just made an issue. Requirement, version, status, draft, author, Jim Manico. Hello, priority medium, operational. The project must contain these files as 3 distinct non-overlapping projects. Rationale, all 3 files are overlapping. The components, the actors, the classification, the acceptance criteria, failure behavior, test strategy. And if I want humans in the loop as operators, we have a chance to review this. And I get really crazy. I can make it with Claude, review with Codex, and comment with Gemini. We're going to do that in just a moment in pieces. So now we got the plan. Let's do it. Go, go, go. Now, let's do it. And I can say, by the way, are you done? I love, by the way, because I'm an impatient, impetuous American bastard. And by the way, lets me like ask a question mid-flow. Okay, let me tighten Claude now, replacing the duplicated content. Awesome. That architecture is duplicated in security, it's duplicated in architecture, and that's a waste of tokens. So that little sentence to clean things up gets us ready to actually build this out. Let me create the branch in PR now. Awesome. How long did that take? That took about 30 minutes to bootstrap, right? Not so bad. That 30 minutes, if this project is going to last you, say, a couple months, I don't have the metric. This will save just doing a little bit right up front. The point I'm trying to make is with AI, we still have engineering. This is an example of that engineering setup. So what do we got? Let me go back to code. We should be fully dialed in now. Let's go look at Claude, because when we fire up Claude, this is what fires first. Website to sell and manage Llama, Django backend, React front end, REST, DBMS. See architecture for guys. There's the requirement template that we need to use. Issues, coding style, API conventions, Git, testing, secrets, deployment, open decisions. Awesome. Security.md loads automatically. Let's check. So let's commit, merge, PR, make sure we're all dialed in. And I'm going to ask, and I'm not making an issue. I'm going to ask, is security.md wired into Claude? And does it need to? I didn't see it there, right? Let's see what I did wrong. Merged on main. Yes, Claude reference security MD in 4 places. I just went too fast. Line 25, really? Line 25. Yeah, there you are. Oh, it's right there. Key documents. Okay, so it's going to load it right there. So now I'm ready to go. Let's do this. So we clean, merge. I think we're all done. Okay. See, AI already got the idea what this llama website is, right? You're going to buy and sell llamas. It's got the architecture. What I would do now is I would work with the team to specify some basic requirements. We don't have time for that. So I'm just going to say new issue. So I'm going to say, build me an epic master issue to build out this site. Make as many sub-issues as you like. Also, please pick Opus, Sonnet, or ChatGPT 5.4 as the best model for each task. Let's go. So I'm not actually doing it. I'm building an issue to build another issue, literally. Never ask code to go directly. So I'm going to use all million tokens of this context window to read architecture, security, my requirement template, and to make a master issue for the entire project, break it up into multiple sub-issues, flag which model I should use for each step, and create them all as issues using the requirement template. That's what we're doing right now. Greenfield project, just the 3 docs. Let me create the epic and all sub-issues now. I'll batch GH calls for speed. The other thing I want to, while it's doing this, a couple of other notes I want to make is, again, this is one way to set things up. This is the first setup I would do. I'd also wire in things like SemGrep or wire in AI-based security review. What I like to do is I like to use AI to do security. I have like 5 agents that do code scan. I do my AI code scan. I do a SemGrep code scan. I merge the results and have AI triage the results. I've gotten way better results using a hybrid of AI and static analysis than using either one of them by themselves. Static analysis informs AI where to dig deeper. AI finds bugs that static analysis misses, and AI does a great job at triaging. These all work hand in hand. So in a future session, I'd bootstrap that in as well. And now it's building out the issues. You got to do auth and users up front. We're going to let this rock for a little bit. While this is rocking, does anybody have any questions? Yes, up front, sir.
In regard of the requirements, can you set that from the outstart to W3C standards and include also, can you from the outstart set it to W3C standards that it validates the code, and also adding the area into the roles when you get the diffs in React? Well, this is most important.
One at a time. The first question was, can I ask it to abide by W3C rules? For security?
To standard, to validation, that it validates.
When you say W3C standards, that's a family of hundreds of standards. So let me answer though. When you say W3C standards, it's wide. And AI will try to do it, but it's too big of an ask.
No, the markup validation, just the markup validation. Markup validation.
Just do HTML validation?
Yeah, and
that's
CSS.
That's easy to wire in. That's no problem at all.
Without issues, good.
Yeah, I agree. So we can make, so let's do that. New issue. Actually, no, let's not. Let's rock. So let's split. That's what you want to do. Let's do it. What's your hey, AI developers, what's your highest split count so far? I'm up to 17. That's my max. Like I have two monitors at home. How many windows have you gotten to doing things? I'm up to 17. And I was like, I'm like, I need to walk away for a little bit. This is getting a little bit too much. Dennis, what's your record so far? Are you near there? I was doing 17 honest, distinct things, and I'm like, Jim, you need to step away. Step away from the computer, Jimbo. Yes, that counts. So over here, I want to make sure that I'm going to go to the Llama site, and I'm going to say Claude, and how do you do any ask you want? You talk in English. You say new GitHub issue, right? Make sure for testing that all HTML does W3C HTML validation as a test. You got it, sir. That's all I have to do to set that up. I'm going to look at the plan and dial it a little bit. So over here on the left, we're building out the phases of development for the project using our requirement template. And again, I'm moving fast because we're going to talk here, but this is where people come in. We review the requirements, make small changes. It doesn't even take long, but it helps make sure we're building exactly what we want to build. I never let AI build all these issues and then just go for it. I'm usually tuning the issues, maybe even with a different engine, but I'm tuning the issues in some way before I rip out the code. If you look in the repo here, you'll see it going crazy building all these issues now. What do we got? We got initialize Django project with production-ready settings. That's the first issue. So this is the epic issue. There's our acceptance criteria. No, where am I? Where's the very first issue? There's issue 7, initialize SPA. There's Postgres. Is there an issue before this? I don't think there is. What is that? Where's the epic? There's the security bootstrapping. So let's go back a tick. This must be the epic right here. It's the initialize. Initialize Django project with production-ready setting structure. So usually when I ask it to break out plans without a template, it's 1 or 2 lines, maybe 10 lines, not enough detail. Now I got the full. I'm going to modify the backend. I need an internal admin. I got my Python, managed Python check with 0 errors. I got these different tests we have set up here. I got failure behavior. I got a testing strategy. This is just going to scaffold the framework, the Django framework. And luckily, Django is a really structured framework. How you scaffold a Django website, there's not a lot of variance. There's one main way to do it. So that's what issue 7 will do. Issue 8 is now going to go out and initialize a React SPA with Vite and TypeScript. It ignored me. I said JavaScript, and it forced me to TypeScript. I'm going to go back and enforce it to JavaScript if I want to, right? So we have the requirement, we have components, we have the acceptance criteria, failure behavior, we have testing strategy. This is just scaffolding, so the requirement setup is really basic. Then we got the database set up also. I'm just getting the database set up here. This is an easy one, right? Initial project scaffolding setup. Now that's the CI/CD pipeline. It's setting up for me SAST, lint, test, dependency. How much time have you spent setting up static analysis in your life? Security engineers. Dennis, how much time have you spent fiddling with static analysis settings? Any more? Ever again? Never again. Now it's an issue in GitHub that AI delivers for me in about 5 minutes, right? So there's my CI/CD pipeline as an issue. What else do we have here? We have set up user registration and login, HTTP only cookie. And the thing is, for like login and API, is it going to mention Argon or passkey? Like what I can do is, this is saying here, memorize secrets. I'm almost done, by the way. Here's our endpoints, failure behavior, serializer validates password policy. So what I'm going to say is, hey, look, issue 7, I don't like this. So I want to be here, and I'm going to say, please alter issue 7 to focus on passkey. The British government moved to passkey. Brilliant. It was a cheap bastard move. They want to save on SMS charge, right? Forgive me for swearing, Dennis. It was a move to save money. But what a brilliant move. I'm very proud of the British government for being progressive, moving to passkey. Passkey is a full-on panacea for security in a big way. It's a brilliant piece of technology. I love it. I call it panacea. British government agrees. Please issue also have to focus on passkey. And for now, we want passkey and password hybrid, which is a good place to start, and use Argon 2ID for passwords. This is how I look at our issue and make a polite change to it. This is the issue for identity. And I'm not gonna, this is a really key one to get right. I might even go to user registration and say, user registration and login are so important. Let's break that up into a bunch of micro issues to make sure I get this right. But this is, I've burnt enough time for one day. This is how I set up Claude Code. If you have questions for me beyond today, I'm always happy to answer. I'm jim@manico.com. I believe that this and what you'll see from Dennis and others is going to help you go from a non-coder to a citizen coder to a very responsible, deterministic, quality programmer in a relatively short time. A little bit of setup, a little bit of architecture, a little bit of security rules, and using Claude and GitHub in planning mode will change radically how you use AI to develop or do any kind of automation in your life. I hope this was valid to you. You're awesome. Thank you for being here, London. I'll see you next time.